Get Warrior Tough. Mental Training 101 with Andrew Wittman and Dutch Coleman on 105.5 The Roar. And now back to Andrew and Dutch.
I'll tell you what, it's hard for me to be mad when I'm looking at your face, Dutch. And I'm so glad Jack's back here on the board, man. Last week I had to fly without him. It was crazy me trying to run the board and do the show. So thanks, Jacko, for taking time out of your busy week with school and wrestling and everything else. You're awesome, dude. I love you.
Yeah, Jack deserves a raise after that mess you put on last week.
It was awful. I know. I had to go back. There's so much editing I had to do. It was ridiculous. But, yeah, we'll give Jack.
I mean, hey, so, Jack, next, when you go back to the negotiating table, remember how invaluable you are and how much of a mess he is without you.
I'm going to give you double what you're making right now, Jack.
I'm interviewing him. He's not interviewing me.
All right, I'm cutting your mic off. That's it. I got to tell you. But no, it really is. I mean, it's just, it's all he handles all the tech, man. It's great. So, all right. So, did you want to say anything else about this concussion stuff, man? Did you get it all out?
No, I just want to tell people to go enjoy the movie if you're going to see it. I'm trying to decide if I want to see it myself, so I'm not here to promote a movie or not. But that's just I guess a case study in not being emotional, listening to the facts, or being able to discern what's the facts and what's one guy's truth. Because remember, these both top research doctors are in disagreement with the same information. So they both have different truths. So, do the same thing, soak in the information, take your perspective, what you have to bring to the table, and make a decision. Don't get emotional. Don't rip your kids out of sports and
right.
do all that stuff,
And just remember,
you're going to do, but think about it first.
Don't just adopt the character that Will Smith's playing because you like Will Smith and Alec Baldwin's playing the other guy and you don't like him. Like, okay, so you got to see past that. They're just actors. That's not really the guys. I know, right? I'm just okay.
But that's what we do.
I know. It's almost ingrained. You almost can't help yourself. All right, so the Golden State Warriors. Will you cue this up for us? Just tell me the story, because I'm not a big NBA guy, right? And I know you are. But if you could just tell me the story, and all of our listeners the story, so then we can have like a discussion on really what's going on here.
Well, I'm just the story of organizations and leadership. When you have a guy, Steve Kerr, who was the coach of the Golden State Warriors, who won the NBA championship last season, and did a great job, defeated LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, had a great a team that kind of grew into this. I think a lot of people argue that they were maturing, they were growing. So you don't have these young players, you have these maturing players, okay? So Steve Kerr takes them to the championship. So then Steve Kerr comes down with an illness over the summer. I'll just say an illness without all the details.
Yeah,
comes down with an illness. He's not able to begin the season as the head coach. One of his assistants, Luke Walton, son of the great Bill Walton, takes over as the interim coach. They started out in an unprecedented 23-0. No team in the history of basketball has ever opened a season with 23 straight victories, right? So I'm sitting there thinking, wow, okay, so is Luke Walton this great of a coach? Is the system solid? Is the organization that Steve Kerr left behind so good that he can put it on autopilot while he's out for the first 23 games? Was his culture, because he's only been there a year, but did he establish such a culture that this can happen? Or were the players so mature and ready for this part of their season? And I mean, when I say season, I mean in their careers, the point in their careers that they can handle something like this? Or the cop-out answer of all time, is it the combination of all of them? So what do you got for me?
Yeah, I don't know. We and I have kind of talked about this before. We think both of us agree that in a football sport, there's so many moving parts that it really does matter, that coaching does matter and having a leader at the helmet does matter. Right. We agreed about that. We had so many.
You got plays. You can have an NBA coach who can come in and give you a philosophy and not call a single play, and you can win a game. But we both know you can't do that in football.
Right. Okay. So that's the first thing. We're talking kind of it's a different situation. It's not completely across the board. We're not saying that coaching doesn't matter across the board. But I mentioned that in my business as a gunslinger in the Marine Corps or in Spec Ops, what we do is, like, as a sergeant, I would be given a squad, I'd be given a mission, I was given the resources, there's a system in place, go sick 'em tiger. And I would go, and I don't necessarily have a coach. I mean, like when I was in Panama, I was deployed to Panama, and my commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel John Falchetti, he's been on the show many times. We got to get him back on the show, by the way. But he was not in Panama. He was there at the beginning, and then he left. He got called away, and I'm still there in Panama. Now, did we have a chain of command in place? Yes, we had a chain of command in place, but I'm basically operating. At that point, I was a corporal, and I had 21 Marines under me. We knew what the job was, and we did it. So I didn't necessarily have to have that coach, and I think that's kind of what we're seeing right now. Now, you wouldn't put a bunch of rookies from boot camp out there and do that. I mean, you got to have some veterans in place that know what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. But I do think that, yeah, if you're a performer and there's a team of 5 or whatever, I mean, there's 5 on the court at a time, right, in the NBA?
Right.
Those guys can work together, and I think you only need really one veteran to kind of take the lead out there, and you could get it done.
And when the leader leaves Panama, if it's a good leader, he left things in a way that things can go on, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Till we hooked back up again. Yeah, till we hooked back up again, because he had other duties that called away. Hey, we need you to come do this back, in CONUS, and so he was gone for a while. So.
A bad leader.
Yeah.
So if he was a bad leader, maybe when he leaves, you guys fall apart.
Right.
The mission fails because he didn't prepare you guys adequately to handle that. So if you translate that to the NBA, maybe if Steve Kerr leaves and he hadn't done a good job of setting the mission and all the parameters and all the different things, then when he leaves, the team's not 23-0 because he didn't do a very good job.
Right. And so I think that, yes, again, the right answer, it's a combination of all. But I'll say, it can happen, but you have to have the right people on board at the right season in their life or their career to all come together and gel and do it. And I want to say these guys, when they won that championship with Steve Kerr, that there's an emotional bond and a lot of, because so he has an illness, he's not there, and this happened to us in Panama. We're going to, not that the colonel was sick or whatever, he wasn't there, but we had an emotional bond with him. We don't want to let him down. So I don't want to screw up because I don't want him to be disappointed in me. The worst thing that could ever happen to me is if Lieutenant Colonel John Falchetti was disappointed in anything that I did. And maybe they have that same kind of emotional driver.
Amen. So the answer can be some more than others, depending on the organization, depending on the mission, the job, the parameters, some more than others. So leadership's presence can be dialed up or dialed back depending on all those different things. So I guess that's a way to look at it. With basketball being a smaller
small unit, we call it a small unit. Yeah, smaller unit. Yeah. Right. And again, there's some. Hey, look. I mean, and all of his Marines, Falchetti's Marines, they all absolutely loved him because he loved us, and we never wanted to disappoint him. But here's the thing. His leadership was more hands-off than it was hands-on, as in he was our safety net, but he gave us autonomy to make decisions and do our jobs without micromanaging us. So he was almost, you would say, less leadership. There was actually more. He had more influence, more leadership by being hands-off and being less involved and giving us our space to learn and grow.
And sometimes a great leader doesn't need to be as involved because he's a great leader. Phil Jackson used to say, he used to get criticized. I remember doing one of the greatest seasons they ever had. He was criticized with it because they said during the game he's sitting down and he does that whistle every now and then and he points to people and he looks at them and he says, hey, man, how come you aren't coaching? You're sitting down, you aren't coaching. He gets up every now and then when something happens. Yeah. And he says, hey, man, I coach during practice.
Right.
That's when I coach. So when I get out here, I don't have to coach because it's clear what I want them to do, my expectations, all those things. I thought that was brilliant.
That is brilliant. That's what we do in the phalanx, really. Phalanx is practice and training so that when real life happens, because you and I, we're not with our coaching clients in real life, real time. All we can do is set them up for success so when life happens, and they can't get us on speed dial or the text didn't go through or you don't have cell coverage or whatever, you can't get a hold of us at that second. You just got to rely on your training. And we talked about that last night in the coaching call, setting up an autopilot. I mean, what you do in training, you're going to do in battle. What you do in practice, you're going to do in the game. We want to set that up on autopilot. We want to be unconscious competence, that we've drilled it down so good that we are on autopilot, that we perform at a high level automatically. We don't have to think about it. It just happens because we've trained ourselves to operate at that level.
And the opposite happens when you don't. When the opposite happens, you get scattered. You get scattered results. You get scattered choices based on nothing. You get just a big mess, and you never know what your target is because you never set a target. And by the same token, if you ever hit a target, you're spinning your wheels repeating the same thing that hit that target, so you're not advancing beyond that target because you're only doing what you did to get you there randomly. And so you're randomly lost, and you don't even know you're randomly lost, and you think you're doing something good because you got there. But once you get there, you need to keep moving to the next level, but you don't know that because you haven't planned or targeted the next level.
That is so right on, man. And I wish, don't you just wish that everybody would get that?
Yeah. And if you just think about it just for a second as you're explaining it, that's a mess. And that's the mess that we're in as individuals. We're in that mess, and we don't know why. Well, you know what? Andrew and I just told you why. We told you why it's a mess, and we told you why you don't understand that it's a mess.
Right, and we covered this kind of stuff. It's not even your fault anymore. If you understand how this whole thing works, once that autopilot program is set up, for average-minded, for not success, for scattered results, you're automatically going to do it, and you can't even. That's why it's so hard to change, because you're not changing your programming, and you're automatically defaulting back to the scattered. And so that's what we do in the phalanx is we reprogram the autopilot program, the meta program we reprogram that so that you're not scattered, so that you're always moving towards success and excellence and getting and high performance and high results. Because once you reset the auto program, the autopilot, it's easy. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to fight about it. For me, it's not hard to do diet and exercise. It's not hard for me to get up in the morning and go to work. Now, we're business owners, Dutch, you and me. Nobody's making us do anything. We do everything because we get up and do it. We make it or do it ourselves. We're on autopilot. I don't have to have that discussion every morning. Well, I don't know if I want to get out of bed or not, man. Boom, I don't even have an alarm clock. My feet hit the ground and I'm up and ready to go. And you know what? And our sights are set. Our sights are set like that sniper that's up in at some point ready to knock something out. Because and think about it. If I handed a sniper a shotgun, he's not going to be very precise. I mean, they're going to go all over the place. So you're going to kill some innocent people. You're going to damage some property that you didn't want to damage. Yep.
And there's a good chance you're going to miss your target with a shotgun, especially if it's a precise target that we want in life.
Yep.
There's a good chance you're going to miss that when the pellets scatter.
And so if you did hit a pellet, it's not going to have any effect. It'll just bink off because it's a small little pellet.
Absolutely. It doesn't have any impact because there was no planning. There was no power in it. There was no research behind it. There was no thinking behind it. So it doesn't have any effect. Doesn't have any power.
Yeah. And so we're seeing, and this is the thing that I love why we do what we do, because we're already starting to see results with our folks. Not just with our corporate clients, but with our, the personal coaching clients in the phalanx, which is really cool for me because we get to know them a little better than the corporate. The corporate, there's always that kind of that business. We're there for business. But in the phalanx, we could take whatever issue that's keeping you up at night, be it relationships, be it, it could be work, it could be your finances, it could be your health, it could be stress, it could be on and on and on and on. But whatever it is that's keeping you up at night, we can deal with it. A lot of times in corporate, we're there just to, increase the organization, which is cool. I enjoy that too. And I love seeing, culture change in an organization and their performance go up. But I also like being able to affect people's lives and know that it's better at home and better, they're handling stress better. And Dutch, the hour's gone, dude. Oh my goodness. Wow. I just looked at the clock. It's gone. All right, bud. Gotta go. See you next week.
All right. Take care. See you, Jack.